All right, everybody, let's jump into page 2. So on this page, we again have to identify the reflection, or I'm sorry, the transformation either as a reflection or as a translation. And there's lots of stuff going on here, but like what we really need to focus on is like the before and after triangles, the pre-image and the image, and really how it got there. And I think if we combine those two competencies, we should be able to tear through this material pretty darn quick. All right, so this first one, what I'm looking at is a triangle ABC, which is marked in blue, ends up at triangle A prime, B prime, C prime, and it travels there along these lines. I'm kind of highlighting them in red. Okay. And so if you notice these three lines are parallel, they're also congruent. It's marked to be such, meaning that this just slid kind of down and to the left. Slide, that's going to be a translation. Okay. And just because like it's not bad to get extra practice, we should probably practice like writing the rule. And so the translation is marked with a big T, and the vector tracks a change. Well, going from like C to C prime, it looks like we have to go back 1, 2, 3 units. And then we have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And so that means it's a -3 on the x and -4 on the y change. Okay, so we have a translation. Moving to the right, okay, we have this line M, and we have these two triangles flipping left and right. We know it's a flip because the lines, the blue, the red, and the green lines, these three lines right here, they're parallel, but they're not the same length. Instead, they've been bisected, in other words, cut in half by the line M. We know it's been cut in half because the left and right parts are both congruent. So this little guy is congruent to this little guy. And we also know it's been perpendicularly bisected because we have the right angles. So even though you can kind of see it visually, that's how you can confirm it. So this is going to be a reflection. In terms of the rule, we use big R, and then what goes in the space is going to be the line of reflection. We don't have an equation because it's not on the grid, but we can say it reflects over line M, and that's just as good. All right. So here we have the blue triangle ABC traveling to the red triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. It looks like it's a slide, and if I look at like the traveling, it looks like it definitely goes over and then up. Again, we're going to go from blue to red because we should notice that the red has these prime markings and therefore is a copy. So it looks like we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that looks like it's a 4 and a 5. So since we're moving by kind of this vector, it's going to be a translation again. Okay, so the rule, we go back 4, up 5. So that's going to be -4 on the x and then +5 on the y. Okay, here we have another translation. Please notice again, like the lines on which they're traveling are the same length and are traveling in the same direction, hence parallel and congruent. And so we're going to have a translation. Okay, for this one, we're not going to write a rule because we have no information. There is technically a way that we can call the vector. So if you're interested, we call this vector A prime with a little vector thing above it. And so we can write that into the rule, but that's kind of beyond the scope of what we were doing this semester, so we'll just leave that blank for now. But if you are curious, you can message me and we can talk over Zoom about it or something. Moving on to this next one, this is definitely going to be a reflection. We have the line of reflection right here. This is going to be the x-axis. And again, the lines which take B to B prime, C to C prime, and A to A prime, they're parallel, but they're not congruent. Instead, they've been cut in half by this x-axis line of reflection. So we are looking at a reflection. Okay, and so the R is just going to be the x-axis is going to be that line. Okay, and to finish up, we have another reflection. Now this is not a variation that we studied because we had so little time to do so, but that line of reflection doesn't only have to be horizontal and vertical, it can be diagonal as well. The thing to observe is that if you look at the AA prime line, the BB prime line, and the CC prime line, they've all been cut in half by this central line of reflection, okay, in such a way that there's also a right angle. That's your dead giveaway for a reflection because you had that perpendicular bisector, okay? So again, another soft skill that you'll have in this test. I don't know if you'll have any questions exactly like this, but you do need to recognize what type of transformation is happening based on the picture provided. Okay? And so sometimes we have rules for those. Sometimes the rules have parts that aren't on the grid, but in the end, you have to pick that out. Right? So Thank you. I'll see you in part 3.